Hello, today I'll be doing a video on Jaws. I just happened to play this last week with a friend of mine was here and I played it with my wife and youngest daughter, so I thought, well, what the heck, make a video on this. I'd last played this back I think in 2019, so it had been a while. Anyway, let's get started with how to set up. Alright, the game was played in two acts, Act 1 and Act 2. Act 1 is Amity Island, so the first thing you do in the Act 1 setup is unfold the Amity Island board in the center of the play area. Next you'll shuffle the Amity event deck and place that somewhere near the play area. You'll place the 16 swimmer tokens somewhere near the game board and kind of separate the Michael Brody swimmer and just put him next to the other swimmer tokens. Then the players will decide who's going to be the shark, who's going to be Chief Brody, who's going to be Hooper, and who's going to be Quint. So in a 4-player game, one person will be the shark and each of the other players will be one of these characters. In a 3-player game, one person will be the shark, one person will be one of the other characters, and then the other 2 crew members will control the third character, between them. And in a 2-player game, one person will be the shark and the other player will be all 3 crew members. So anyway, separate those out, decide who's going to be what, and in this example I'm going to be playing solo, so I'll be all characters. So after you've decided, each person make sure that their board is on the Act 1 side. For instance, here Brody is on the Act 2 side, so you just flip him over. Same thing with Hooper here, and same thing with Quint. Then you complete their setup. The Quint player will take 2 barrel tokens and place them on or near his player board. The rest of the barrel tokens he'll place in the shop space in the middle of the Amity Island. Then you'll take the green mover and place it in the Orca mover, which is this brown or maroon boat, and then place it in the space 8 here at the dock, like so. The Brody person will take the beached closed token and the binoculars token and just put them in his play area. Then you take the black mover and place it at the Amity PD on the player board. The Hooper character will take the fish finder token and place that in his play area. Then he'll take the blue mover token, put it in Hooper's boat on space 5 in the water at the dock in the player board. The shark player will take one of these red clips and attach it to their player board on the 0 space down here, like so. Then the shark player will take their 4 power tokens and their shark mover and just place them in their play area. If it's your first time playing the game, you're supposed to show the shark power tokens to all players so that they know what powers the shark may have. Feeding frenzy, for one action, the shark may eat all swimmers at a beach. Evasive moves, the shark does not trigger any motion sensors this round. Speed burst, once this round the shark may move up to 3 spaces with 1 move action. And out of sight, the shark is invisible to Hooper's fish finder and Brody's binoculars. So the shark will use those at certain times. The shark player will also take this shark tracker pad and a pen or pencil. Then the shark will take and choose one of the 12 locations, 1, 2, 3, 4, east, south, west, any of the water locations which have a number or letter designator, and choose that as their starting location. They don't tell that to the players playing the crew members. So we'll just say, for example, the shark is going to choose E for East Beach. So they will write that here in their start location. Like so. So that's where the shark is. The other players do not know where the shark is. Any other game components are set aside. They will not be used in the first act of the game. So in Act 1, the shark's goal is to try to eat as many swimmers as possible. If he eats 9 swimmers, then that will end Act 1. The crew's goal is to keep the shark from eating swimmers and to attach 2 barrels to him. As soon as they're able to attach 2 barrels to the shark, that will end Act 1. So either when the shark eats 9 swimmers or the crew attaches 2 barrels to him, that will end Act 1 and you'll go to Act 2. The more swimmers the shark eats before he gets 2 barrels attached to him, then that's better for him and worse for the crew. So let's get started on Act 1 and how a round works. So the first thing you do in Phase 1 is turn over the top event card and place swimmers in these locations. So if there's 2 ends, then that means you place 2 swimmers in the North Beach. Here you'd place 2 swimmers in the East Beach. And here you'll place 1 swimmer in the West Beach. So let me get that done. Alright, so you'll see I placed 2 swimmers in the North Beach, 2 swimmers in the East Beach, and 1 swimmer in the West Beach, according to how it says here. If there's just 1 end, then you just place 1. If there's 2, so that tells you what swimmers. Then you read the text. Brody may immediately move to any space on the island. So if the Brody character wanted to, he could then move his mover to any of the spaces on the island. Alright, so that's the event phase. Then we go to the shark phase, where it's the shark player's turn. So on the shark's turn, they get three actions. The things they can do for an action is move 1 space. So you remember we said that their starting location was E. Now the crew doesn't know that. So for 1 space, they could move here to 8. They can move here to 2. You can't move diagonal. So for 1 action, they could not move to 4. If they wanted to move to 4, they would have to move to 8 and 4. That would take 2 actions because it's 1 action to move to an adjacent space. And again, you can't move diagonal and you can't move across land. So one of the actions the shark can do is move a space, and another action the shark can do is eat a swimmer. And they can take up to 3 actions. They can do the same action multiple times. But remember, they can also use 1 power token on their turn if they want to. And they don't have to tell the crew members which power token they used. But if they use one, they just have to say they used a power token and then set it aside because it's no longer available for them. Another thing the shark must do is, as the game progresses, barrels will be placed in water spaces on the board, and barrels have motion sensors on them. So if a shark moves through a space that had a barrel token on it, they have to say that they activated that motion sensor. They don't have to say at what point, but if they moved through a space with a motion sensor, they have to say, I activated this motion sensor. Then they also, if they eat swimmers, they have to pick up the swimmer tokens that they ate, and of course that lets the crew members know that at some point they were in that space and ate swimmers. But they don't have to tell the crew if that was at the beginning of their turn or the middle or where they ended. So once they decide exactly what they're going to do with their 3 actions, they then log their final ending space here. And if they ate any swimmers, they write the number of swimmers they ate next to the beach where they ate them at. And if they used a power token, they circle that. So we'll just show as an example. We know this shark started in E because that's what he wrote. So for his first turn, let's say he's going to use the feeding frenzy. So he's going to take 1 action to eat all swimmers at the beach. So he doesn't he'll set that aside for now. So he's going to use 1 action to eat 2 swimmers at this beach. So he's going to take those out, put them back in the supply. And that leaves him 2 actions left. So we'll just say he's going to move from 8 to S. So in his shark, that's his 3 actions. So in his shark pad, he'll write S because that's his ending location. He ate 2 swimmers in the East Beach right there. And he used the feeding frenzy power token. But he doesn't tell the crew players which token he used. He just says, I used a token and I ate 2 swimmers in the East Beach. And that's all he has to tell the crew members at this point. So the crew members know he was here at some point, and they don't know if he took 2 actions to eat both those swimmers, in which case he could only be, 1 space away unless he used one of his power tokens, which they know he used one, but they don't know if he used maybe feeding frenzy or if he used maybe speed burst where he can move up to 3 spaces. So they don't know. But anyway, that's what the shark does. He decides what he's going to do. Then he tells, with his 3 actions, then he tells the crew if he ate any swimmers, takes those swimmers and puts them back in the supply. If he used a power token, he says, I used a power token, but doesn't say which one. Then he writes his ending location, and if he ate swimmers and used a power token, he marks them here. So that's the shark's turn. Then it's the crew phase, and the crew decides what order they can decide what order they want to act in, and then they can take up to 4 actions. So let's start with Quint. He can take up to 4 actions, and you can see for an action he can move 1 space. Again, not diagonal. None of the crew or the shark can move diagonal. Alright, so he can move 1 space for an action. He can rescue 1 swimmer that's in his space for an action. So if he rescued a swimmer, he just picks it up and puts it back in the supply. He can pick up any or all barrels that are in the dock from the water, a dock, or from Hooper's boat. So if there's barrels on the dock, he can pick them up. If he's in a water space where there's barrels, he can pick them up. And if he's next to Hooper and Hooper is carrying some barrels, he can pick them up. And that's 1 action. And finally, he can launch a barrel once per round into his space or an adjacent space. And if he launches a barrel into a space, his space or an adjacent space, and the shark is in that space, the shark has to say, yes, I'm in that space, and that's attached 1 barrel to the shark. And if Quint's launching a barrel, of course, he has to have it on his boat, so it has to be with him. And again, if the shark is in that space, then the shark has to say, yes, I'm in that space, and he attaches a barrel. He takes that barrel token and puts it on his shark pad. Remember, the crew are trying to attach 2 barrels to the shark. But if he's not in that space, say Quint launches a barrel here into the number 4 space, and the shark says, no, I'm not there, then that barrel just stays there, and now it's a motion sensor. So on the shark's turn, if he moves through space 4, he has to say, after he's finished deciding what he's doing on his turn, he has to say, I triggered motion sensor 4. Now, a crew member can't do part of his turn and then another crew member do part of his turn. So once a crew member starts doing their actions, they have to take all 4 of their actions before another crew member can go. But they can decide what order they're going in. So let's look at Brody. He can move 1 space. He stays on land, and again, he can move adjacent spaces. He can't really move diagonal, but he can move to the different land spaces on the map. He can rescue a swimmer if he's at a beach space. He can rescue a swimmer there. He can pick up a barrel from the shop. So if he's at the shop for 1 action, he can pick up a barrel and just, put it under his mover to show that he's carrying it. And then if he's, for 1 action, if he's at a dock, he can drop the barrel and leave it at the dock. That's a good way for Quint to be able to get barrels. He can, once per round, use his binoculars. If he's at one of the beach spaces, he can put his binoculars there. Then if the shark is in the water there at that beach, he must say that he's there. Unless he used, that round, he used his out of sight power where it says he's invisible to Hooper's fish finder and Brody's binoculars. So if the shark had used that power, he would say he's not there even if he was. But if he hadn't used that power, he would have to say, yes, I'm in the East Beach. And the other thing Brody can do is he can close a beach with his beach closed if he's at the mayor's office or at the Amity PD. So if Brody's here at the mayor's office or at the Amity PD for 1 action, he can choose 1 beach that doesn't currently have any swimmers and place his beach closed sign there. Then the next round, when you would draw an Amity event card, if it would place swimmers at that beach, they would not get placed there. Instead, this token would get flicked over to the opening soon side. And then the next round, when you drew an event card, if swimmers would be placed at that beach, they would not be placed there, but then you must pick up the beach closed sign. So then the next time, swimmers could be placed there. All right, those are Brody's 4 possible actions. Now we'll look at Hooper. Now Hooper, for 1 action, he can move his boat up to 2 spaces. So the other players, when they're moving for 1 action, they can only move, 1 space. Well, I just kind of went diagonal there, which I'm not allowed to. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, 1 space for 1 action. But Hooper could actually move 2 spaces for 1 action. He can rescue 1 swimmer, so if he was here for 1 action, he could rescue the swimmer. For another action, he could rescue the other one. And again, when you rescue a swimmer, you just pick him up and put him back in the supply. He can pick up any or all barrels from the water or a dock. So if there's barrels in the water or one of the docks, he can pick those up. And of course, he'll want to try to get those to Quint so Quint can launch them into water spaces. And that's one of the actions he can do, is give all the barrels that he's carrying to Quint. And finally, he can use his fish finder once per round. So if he uses that, he places the fish finder in his space. And if the shark is in that space, he must say, yes, I'm in that space, and place his shark mover there. And I forgot to mention that when Brody uses his binoculars, if the shark was in that space, he would have to say yes and place his shark mover there. If the shark is not in that space, but he is in an adjacent space, he has to say, I'm nearby. He doesn't have to say which space he's in, but he does have to say, I'm nearby. And if he's not in that space or an adjacent space, then he just says, I'm not nearby. So that eliminates the adjacent spaces in that space. So the fish finder is pretty good. But again, if the shark player had played the out of sight power, he wouldn't have to answer truthfully. They would just say, I'm not there or nearby, even if they were. So that's a good little power that the shark has. But again, that's Brody's fish finder ability. And that's it. So once all the crew players have taken their 4 actions, then you go back to the event phase and flip over another event card, place swimmers, do whatever it says on the event card, and then the shark takes their action again. So we'll just do a few example turns here in Act 1, and so we'll just pick up where the shark left off. You know, he ate those 2 swimmers in the East Beach, and so he wrote south down there. And we forgot, we should have moved his, I didn't mention this, but when you eat swimmers, you move your token up, your clip, and move your clip up to the number of swimmers you've eaten. Okay, so that the shark has ended his turn. Oh, he did use an ability. Which one did we say? The feeding frenzy. So he won't be able to use that again. All right, so now the crew players, they know a couple swimmers were eaten here, so they think probably the shark is nearby there, and so they decide who they want to go first. So Quint says, I think I'm going to go first. So for 1 action, I'm going to, oh, well, that barrel shouldn't really be there. For 1 action, I'm going to move here to the East Beach. For another action, and for my once around launching a barrel, I'm going to launch a barrel into the East Beach. The shark, we know he's not there. He's over here in the South Beach. He says, no, I'm not there. All right, so that's 2 of Quint's action. He moved and launched a barrel. So for his next action, he's going to move here, back to the dock, hoping maybe Brody will bring him a barrel, and he could take a 4th action, but we'll just say for right now he's not going to. We'll say Brody wants to take his actions. So for 1 action, he's going to move here to the shop. For another action, he's going to pick up a barrel. For a 3rd action, he's going to move here, and for a 4th action, he's going to move here. Now he can't, even though he's in the space with the dock, he's out of action, so he can't drop his barrel there. So he's used all 4 of his actions. All right, Hooper, for 1 action, he's going to move here. Now remember, he could move 2 spaces, but he just wants to move 1 space. For his 2nd and 3rd action, he's going to rescue both of these swimmers. And for his 4th action, we'll say he's going to use his fish finder. So he drops his fish finder here. And if the shark was here or in adjacent space, he would have to say, I'm either there or I'm nearby. But we know the shark is down here, so the shark player would say, I'm not nearby. So then the players know the shark is not in the North Beach, he's not in 6, he's not in 5, he's not in 1. He could be in 2 because that's diagonal, so that's not adjacent. So anyway, the shark says I'm not nearby, and that is all of Hooper's turns. So now we go back to the shark. So the Hooper player can go ahead and pick up his fish finder, so he'll have it for next round. Alright, so we're ready to start the next round. We draw the Amity event card. We put 1 swimmer in the South Beach, and we put 2 swimmers in the West Beach. And then it says if the shark's swimmer track is at 3 or lower, which it is, it's only at 2, also place 1 in the North, South, and East. So we put a swimmer in the North, another swimmer in the South, and a swimmer in the East. Alright, so the shark decides what he's going to do. Now he could, for 2 of his actions, eat 2 swimmers there, but then he'd only have 1 action to move. So he's going to try to be a little tricky. He's going to eat 1 swimmer here for 1 action, and then he's going to move 1, 2. Let's see if he wants to use a special power. Yeah, he's going to use his out of sight this time, where he's invisible to Hooper's fish finder and Brody's binoculars. So he's going to eat one here, and then he's going to move 2 and end up in west. So he writes in his log west, because that's where he ends up. And we know he's going to eat 1 in the south. And he's going to use his out of sight. So, alright. So then he tells the people he ate 1 swimmer in the south. So he gets to move his little clip up to 3. And he's done. Alright, so now the crew decides what they're going to do. Brody, for one, he's going to go first, and for one of his actions, he's going to drop his barrel at the dock. For another action, he's going to move here to the south beach. For his third action, he's going to use his binoculars. And so if the shark... Normally, if the shark was at the south beach, he'd have to say, yes, I'm there, but he really played his out of sight. So even if he was there, he could say he wasn't. But the shark just says, no, I'm not there. And actually, he's telling the truth because he's over at west. And he's got one more action, so he'll move back to the shop. So that's going to be his actions. So now we'll say Quint wants to go. He's going to use 1 action to pick up a barrel. He's going to put that on his player mat. He knows the shark, or he thinks he knows the shark's not at the south beach. So he's going to launch a barrel into 4. Remember, he can do that in his space or an adjacent space. So he launches a barrel into 4. The shark, even if the shark was had played the out of sight like he had, if a barrel gets launched into his space, he has to attach it. But he's not in 4, so he just says, no, I'm not there. So we'll say Brody moves 1 space here to S, and then he rescues 1 swimmer. And that's his 4 actions. So finally, we'll have Hooper take his turn. For 1 action, he's going to rescue a swimmer. For another action, he's going to move 2. Remember, he can move 2 for 1 action, so that's only 2 actions. So for his third action, he's going to rescue a swimmer. And for a 4th action, he's going to place his fish finder. Now, really, the shark is there in the west beach. So if he hadn't played his out of sight thing, he would have to say, yes, I'm there. I'm in that space. But since he played his out of sight thing, he just lies and says, no, I'm not there. I'm not nearby. But anyway, he is. So anyway, that's it. Then we would start another round. So that's how you play Act 1, and you continue going until either the shark gets 2 barrels on him, or until the shark has eaten 9 swimmers. Once one of those things occur, then you end Act 1. So we're going to go on and pretend Act 1 has ended, and we'll say the shark got 5 swimmers before he got 2 barrels attached to him. And that ended Act 1, and then we're going to go to Act 2. So you clear these barrels. Everybody takes everything off of the board. You will flip the board over to the Act 2 side. You will look at where the shark's clip is on his Act 1 side, depending on how many swimmers he ate. And then he will get 6 shark ability cards. So you shuffle the shark ability deck and deal the shark the amount shown, depending on how many swimmers. So if he ate 5 swimmers, he gets 6 shark abilities. And the rest are just put out of the game. The crew should flip their cards over to the Act 2 side. We don't need that barrel anymore. And then each crew member will get 2 gear cards that have their name on them. Hooper gear, Quint gear, Brody gear. And they take their mover. Hooper and Quint no longer need their boat movers. They just get their little people mover. You then shuffle the crew gear cards and look at the shark again, how many swimmers he ate in Act 1, and look at the number of crew gear cards that the crew gets. So they get 7. So they'll deal out 7 cards. The rest will just go out of the game. And then they will divide those cards among themselves however they choose. So we'll say 2 to Brody, 2 to Hooper. And of course they can look at them and decide. You can look at them and decide who's going to get what. I'm just doing it real quick for an example. We'll say Brody gets the 3rd one, or the extra one. Each crew member gets the target token that matches their color. So green for Quint, black for Brody, and blue for Hooper. Each crew member then places all their gear cards face up near their player board. So we see Brody has a pistol, a baseball bat, some ammo, a fishing pole, and a hook. Hooper's got a rifle, a hammer, a pistol, and a trank spear. And Quint's got a flare, a machete, a shark cage, and some chum. You then put a clip on each player board on the Act 2 side at the 0 space. That's their health. Flip the shark card over to the Act 2 side and place his clip up on the 0 space for his health. You get the orca ship tiles and build the orca with the tiles in the zones seen here with their healthy side up. So let me do that and I'll be back. Alright, so you should have all the undamaged orca pieces placed on the board like that. You shuffle these resurface deck and place them here on the board where it says deck. Each crew member then places their mover somewhere on the boat. The same space can be shared by more than one crew, so they just decide where they want to put their mover at. You then give the shark player the 3 large resurface tokens labeled A, B, and C, and their shark mover token. You place the 3 small resurface tokens labeled A, B, and C and the dice somewhere next to the game board. All the other tokens that were used in Act 1 are not used in Act 2, so you just set them aside in a pile somewhere off or back in the box. Then you're ready to begin Act 2. So in Act 2, the shark is going to resurface in one of the 8 zones around the orca. The crew are going to kind of try to predict where they think the shark is going to surface so that they can use their weapons to attack the shark. And of course the shark is then going to attack and damage and try to destroy both the ship and the crew. So the crew will win if they damage the shark enough that they kill it. The shark will win if he kills all 3 crew members or completely destroys the orca. Alright, so the first thing you'll do at the beginning of a round in Act 2 is turn over 3 resurface cards, 1 in A, 1 in B, and 1 in C. And these will show the red box there shows the possible resurface options of where the shark may appear. And you'll take the small resurface tokens here and just put them in the water where it's shown. So A looks like it would be the shark may appear right here. B, the shark may appear right here. And C is actually the same as A, so that's kind of good for the crew. This time they don't have as many options that they've got to choose from. The shark player will then pick up their larger resurface tokens and they decide which of the resurface options they're going to choose, of where they want to resurface, either A, B, or C. So we'll just say in this example, he's going to choose B. So he would secretly take the B resurface token and place it in front of him. Now, the shark player can also choose one of their shark ability cards and place it underneath the resurface token, and that'll be the shark ability that's in effect for this round. And of course, once they use a card, then they don't have it anymore for the act. So we'll just pick one randomly. This one is, if the shark damages or destroys a boat space, apply 2 hits to one space that is adjacent to the targeted boat. So we'll just say the shark decides they're going to use that ability. So they secretly choose their resurface option and an ability if they want to. Next, the crew prepares for where they think the shark's going to resurface and what weapon or item that they have that they may want to use. So they can move up to 2 spaces, because like if Brody, who has this baseball bat, if he wants to use his baseball bat, it's got a melee icon. That means he has to be in a space adjacent to where the shark's going to appear in order to use that. Now, the pistol, it's got, he can use that from anywhere on the boat to shoot the shark where it resurfaces if he targets the right area. But after firing the pistol, you either have to discard an ammo, which he does have 1, or you discard the pistol. So he's at most going to get 2 shots out of that. And the crew can discuss amongst themselves what they want to do. So Brody, he's going to try to use his baseball bat, and he thinks the shark, pretty good odds the shark may resurface here. So he can move up to 2 spaces, so he's going to move there. And then he chooses which weapon he's going to use. So he chooses the baseball bat and places that. You're supposed to put it above your player board. I'm just going to put it up here over to the left. Alright, Hooper. He's going to go move 1, 2, and he is going to use his hammer to attack the shark. And Quint's going to try to use this attachable item, but again, you have to be adjacent to where the shark is. So he's going to move 1, and he's going to use the flare. And then they got to put their target token down where they think the shark is going to appear. So where is Brody's? He thinks the shark's going to appear here also. If you have an accessory like this chum or shark cage, you can use those when they say, like the chum says, after the shark locks in their resurface token, you may play chum. The shark player must reveal one of the resurface tokens they did not choose, but then you have to discard it. Or for the cage, before the shark rolls for an attack, you may play the shark cage. You cannot take any wounds this round. After using the shark cage, discard it. Alright, after the players have chosen their targeted location, the shark reveals where they chose to resurface, B, so the other cards just get discarded. Let me move this up a little bit so I have more room. And we can remove the C and A. Since we know he chose B, Brody and Hooper targeted the wrong spot, so they're not going to be able to target. So the only one that's going to be able to target is Quint. The shark also reveals their ability if they played one and reads it to the players. So then the crew would get to attack any crew members that targeted the right spot. So again, only Quint would get to attack with the weapon that he chose. So in this case, he chose the flare. So he will attach the flare um, to the shark automatically, so the shark just puts that face up in front of them, and then they'll have this penalty. So while attached at the end of each round, the shark must roll one die and take that many wounds. And they do have a chance to get rid of that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If Hooper here had targeted the right spot and he got to attack, he would get to roll one die, and that would be one hit, and he would get to do so much damage. He has this: when attacking with the hammer, the shark's evade value is 0. So this number in the fin is the evade value, and you always subtract from that from the amount of damage. So he only rolled a 1, so if you subtracted the evade value, he wouldn't do any damage, but his hammer's ability is when attacking with the hammer, this shark's evade value is 0. So if he had targeted the right space, the shark would take 1 damage and have to move his clip down to 1. If Brody had targeted the right space, he would get to roll 2 dice, and of course he doesn't get to avoid the shark's evade value. So if he had rolled, and well, he would have only rolled a 1, so he wouldn't get to do any damage because the evade value is 2 minus 1. He wouldn't do any damage. But if your attack misses, re-roll both dice. The new results are final. So he would get to roll 1 more time. 2 still minus the evade value, it would still miss, so he wouldn't do any damage. So in this example, Quint was the only one that was effective. He got to attach his flare to the shark. Now the shark gets to attack. They have the choice of either attacking the boat or attacking a crew member, but they can only attack a crew member if they're in the water, in the same space or an adjacent space to the shark. So in this case, they only have the option of attacking the boat, and they have to attack. Oh, I forgot. We were supposed to put the shark when the shark chose where he was gonna resurface. We should have put the shark mover there. So there we go. I'll just put it that way so you can see it a little bit better. So anyway, the shark, again, on his shark attacks turn, he can target a crew member that's in the water in the same space or adjacent space, or he can attack a boat that's in the same space or adjacent space, boat section. Now you notice there's 2 numbers here, a 1 and a 3. 1 is what the shark needs to damage that boat space. This is the only boat space he can attack because that's the only one that's adjacent to him currently. So if he rolled 1 on the dice, the number of dice he gets to roll is shown here on the card. So he just gets to roll 1. So let's see what he gets. He gets a 1. That is enough to damage. If he rolled a 3, which he couldn't with just 1 dice, the most you can roll on 1 dice is 2. But 1 is enough to damage it. 3 destroys it. So it's damaged. So we flip that tile over to its damaged side. If there's a crew member on a section of the boat that's damaged or destroyed, they fall into the water. And that's it for the shark attack. But now the shark gets a bonus attack where they can roll 1 die to make an attack against anybody that's in the water in the same space or adjacent to him. The only one that is Quint, so he gets to roll 1 dice, and he does 2 damage to Quint, so Quint will have to move his marker down 2. Now we forgot the shark applied this card where if he damages or destroys a boat space, apply 2 hits to 1 boat space that is adjacent to the targeted boat space. So a boat space that was adjacent to the targeted boat space was here, so he gets to apply 2 hits to that, which is also going to damage this section of the boat. That would also put Hooper and Brody in the water, and they would then be adjacent to the shark. So actually he gets to make one bonus attack against each of them. So this is against Brody, he misses. This is against Hooper, he gets 2 hits on Hooper. So Hooper would have to move his thing down 2. Alright, then that ends the round, and because he had this flare attached to him at the end of the round, the shark must roll 1 die and take that many wounds. So he got nothing, so no wounds. At that point, you take each crew member takes their target marker back. Shark goes back under the water, so he takes his mover token, this card gets discarded, it's out of the game now. And this resurface cards gets discarded. And then we would start a new round by revealing 3 new resurface cards. Now, one thing I didn't mention, when the crew prepares and they can move, it takes both of their moves to get, if they're in the water, it takes both of their moves to get back up on the boat. And I did want to show something here. Now, because this boat space is damaged, this space, for them to get out of the water, they're adjacent to this boat space, and now they're also adjacent to this boat space. So he could use both his moves when it's their turn to do that, to either get here on the boat or here on the boat, where Hooper, he'll only be able to get here on the boat. So that's it. So you keep going until either the shark is killed, his clip moves all the way down to the X, then he would be killed. And of course all this is on here on the shark's card and the crew cards. But if each time if a crew member's clip moves down to the X, they're eliminated. If all 3 crew members are eliminated or the boat is completely destroyed, then the shark wins. Or if the crew members manage to get the shark damaged to where his clip hits the X, then the crew members win. And that's how you play. So why don't we do a couple of example rounds, just picking up from where we left off here. So we'll flip the 3 resurface cards. So we see resurface option A is over here. Resurface option B is over here. And resurface option C is also over here. Now if the shark chooses A, he'll get to roll 3 dice to attack, which is pretty good. But he only has 1 evade value, where if he chooses C, he has a 2 evade value, but he only has 1 attack. I think he's gonna choose A. So the shark would choose his A token and put it here, and then choose maybe a shark ability card to use. So we'll say the shark chooses Big Mouth. If the shark damages or destroys a boat space, each crew member on that boat space takes 1 wound. So that's what he's going to choose. Alright, the crew are going to repair. Remember, it takes both move actions they have to get back up on the boat. So Brody's going to spend 2 to move there, Hooper's going to spend 2 to move there, and Quint's going to spend 2 to move there. Then they choose their weapon. Now, because they can't get within melee range of any one of those resurface spots, Brody decides he's going to choose to use his pistol. Hooper is going to use his rifle. And Quint really doesn't have anything that, the only thing he's got is a melee weapon, so he's really not going to be able to target the shark. So Brody, he targets space B, and we'll say Hooper targets space A. So then the shark reveals where he chose in his ability. So he chose A, so we can discard B and C, and we can discard B and C. And we know Hooper targeted the wrong spot, so Brody targeted the wrong spot, so he's not going to get to shoot. Quint didn't even bother to target a spot because he couldn't. So Hooper did target the right spot, so he gets to use his rifle. So he gets to roll 2 dice, plus he gets 1 automatic hit. But because he doesn't have ammo after he fires that, he's going to have to discard it. So he's going to attack. He gets 2 dice. He got 2 hits plus 1. That's 3 hits. -1 for the shark's evade ability. So the shark takes 2 damage. Alright. Now Hooper has to discard this rifle because he doesn't have any ammo for it. So it's just out of the game. So now the shark chooses whether he wants to attack crew or boat. Well, there's no crew in the water with him, so his only choice is... Oh, I forgot to put the shark mover there again. He should have put his mover there. So the only thing he can do is attack the boat. So he's going to attack this boat section. But he gets to roll 3 dice. If he gets a 4, he destroys that boat section. Well, he got a 3, so that's enough to damage it. So he damages that boat section. And then you'll notice on these damage sections, now they take less. If this section takes 2 damage, it's destroyed. If this section takes 2 damage, it's destroyed. If this section takes 1 damage, it's destroyed. His power was, if the shark damages or destroys a boat space, each crew member on that boat space takes 1 wound. Well, nobody was on that boat space. Nobody falls into the water, so nobody takes a wound. So now Hooper would just take his target token back. Shark would take his mover back, take this back, puts his big mouth card out of the game. This resurface card is now discarded. You notice he didn't get to make a bonus attack because nobody was in the water with him. But anyway, you just keep going until either the boat's completely destroyed, or all 3 crew members are killed, or the shark is... Oh, now at the end of the round, the shark had this flare attached to him, so he would have had to roll 1 die, and he would take 1 wound. Now, you say, well, how do they ever get rid of these attached items? Well, any of these attachable items, they have this hook symbol. In some of these resurface cards that will appear, they have this symbol here. So if the shark chooses to resurface at a section, at a card that has that symbol, they get to shake off any attached items. So if we chose these 3 cards and the shark chose to resurface at section B, then he would get to shake off any attachable items, so this would get discarded. Anyway, that's how you play the game. I think it's a pretty fun game. It actually doesn't take very long. I think this explanation took a long time, but actually playing the game is like an hour. The theme, yeah, I guess it's, I really like the movie Jaws. It's one of my favorite movies. The theme in Act 2 is a lot more thematic, I guess, to the movie Jaws than Act 1 is. I don't think that is nearly as thematic, but it's a fun part of the game, and it, obviously if the shark does better in Act 1, he's going to be a lot better off in Act 2, and if the crew do better in Act 1, then the shark's going to be worse off in Act 2. But anyway, it's a fun, quick, I think, family, pretty easy game. So yeah, I like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.